on the mission. A mission. Today is the day. Start your ignition. Let's take it away. All the way to the top. We gotta ride. Gotta rise. Gotta ride. We gotta rise. Gotta rise. Gotta rise.
We have heard the call for water all across Jamaica, and our agencies responsible for water are responding to that call.
That declaration came halfway through 2012, but the call to action was heard immediately after Robert Pickersgill's appointment to the water portfolio in January. There was much to achieve. The National Water Commission is a flagship water supply entity in the ministry, and just 3 months into 2012, the NWC accessed $128.7 million to boost its capacity to do that job. The Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, provided the grant to do some critical work.
Our overall goal is improved capability, improved capacity, improved efficiency, and indeed cost effectiveness.
With funding from the IDB, work continued under the Kingston Metropolitan Area KMA Water Supply Improvement Program last year. Ground was broken in March to rehabilitate the Mona and Hope treatment plants at a cost of $1.5 billion over 18 months.
Combined, they represent nearly 50% of the National Water Commission's water production capacity in all of Kingston and St. Andrew.
Towards the end of the year, Astrom Building Systems began pipelaying works under the NWC's $1.2 billion Portmore Pipeline project to significantly improve the delivery of potable water to communities in southeastern St. Catherine. The ministry also celebrated the completion of the $704 million Constant Spring water treatment plant. Several projects were also implemented last year to provide water to rural households. Cabinet approved a $46 million contract to replace the sewage pipeline and complete the infrastructure works on the Fruitful Vale water supply scheme in Portland. Meanwhile, more than 2,000 residents of St. Mary got access to potable water when the Broadgate water supply system was commissioned into service. Wastewater and sewage system projects were also started or completed in 2012. Ground was broken in February for the construction of the $50 million Darling Street wastewater pumping station to improve the sewage system serving sections of downtown Kingston and St. Andrew.
On completion, in another 18 months, or perhaps 15, flows from this new Darling Street facility will connect to this station at Greenwich and transferred to the Soapberry wastewater treatment plant.
This wastewater rehabilitation project is an excellent example of the application of science and technology in a way that protects the natural environment, secures public health, supports the economy, and enhances the quality of life of our people.
Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller was speaking in March as the Negril wastewater treatment plant at Sheffield in Westmoreland was commissioned into service. After extensive rehabilitation work, the plant is now able to treat roughly 4 million gallons of wastewater per day. Like other utilities, the National Water Commission's supply network was impacted by the passage of Hurricane Sandy in late October. And in the aftermath, even as it addressed infrastructure damage, the Commission also identified measures to limit the impact of power outages on its supply systems in the future.
Quite a few of our facilities, our newer facilities, we have installed standby generators. What we are also doing is outfitting mobile generators so we can relocate them from point to point depending on where in fact we have the need.
Here we go.
We know that this is one of the best ways to empower our people to improve themselves, build their better communities, and ultimately build a better nation.
Helping more Jamaicans get security of tenure for land holdings was a major priority for the Land Ministry in 2012. On June 25, residents of Linstead, Bogwalk and surrounding communities in St. Catherine were presented with certificates of title for their properties under the Land Administration and Management Program, LAMP. Through that program, another 50 residents in St. Elizabeth also got their titles early in the year. Protecting the country's land resource was another preoccupation for the ministry in 2012. At a workshop for stakeholders in the 3-year Sustainable Land Management Project, the minister stressed that sustainable land management had to become a part of how we do business as a country.
Failure to address land degradation reduces our farmers' capacity to produce food, increases our vulnerability to natural hazards, limits the availability of fresh water for our people, and undermines our tourism, agriculture, and fisheries sectors.
The Forestry Department is implementing the Land Management Project with funding from the UNDP's Global Environment Facility.
NEPA is to be responsible for planning guidelines and standards. Secondly, it is being proposed to NEPA that it is to be responsible for planning approvals, development approvals.
Those proposals are contained in a green paper developed to set up an Environmental Regulatory Authority, ERA. The ERA is to have primary responsibility for environmental policing, compliance monitoring, and enforcement. Throughout 2012, a series of consultations were held island-wide to get comments and feedback on proposals in the Green Paper. Other important initiatives taken under the environment portfolio last year included an agroforestry project in northern Rio Mino, Clarendon. The Forestry Department began the project in June under the Sustainable Land Management in Jamaica project. The Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management added Bedwood Gardens in St. Andrew and Breastwork in Portland to the list of communities benefiting from the World Bank-funded community-based landslide risk reduction project. A $2.4 million grant is funding the training and mitigation strategies to reduce hazards. And the National Environment and Planning Agency added 2 new ambient air quality monitoring sites at Washington Gardens in St. Andrew and Waterford in Portmore.
Here in the most vulnerable part of the world, in Jamaica and the other small island developing states of the Caribbean, we cannot afford to pretend that climate change does not exist.
So very early in the year, a Climate Change Advisory Committee was established to provide strategic policy direction to the ministry. It's made up of academics in the fields of earth sciences as well as physical planners, environmentalists, government technocrats, and civil engineers. Meanwhile, the 3-year Jamaica Adaptation Fund program was established to minimize the effects of disasters on the agriculture sector and coastal areas.
The cost of financing adaptation and mitigation efforts is often high. Nevertheless, we know that the cost of delaying actions to address climate change are even higher.
The ministry also initiated a year-long public education program on the issue dubbed Climate Change, We Have to Change.
We must help each other understand about climate change and what will be required of us in order to build our resilience and adapt to climate change.
And in November, Jamaica sent a delegation to Doha, Qatar, to give the country a voice in the deliberations of the 18th Conference of Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change.
We must ensure that the country has political and technical delegates at the highest level to engage in negotiations to represent Jamaica's interests. This will demonstrate to the global community that we insist on being part of the solution and that we want to have our concerns integrated into the decisions made.
I'm on a mission. To ignition. Let's take it away. We gotta ride.